I still remember that night like a wound that never healed. It was one of those quiet evenings when the world feels too calm to be real. I was sitting in my car outside a restaurant on Sunset Boulevard, waiting for my wife, Sophia. She'd told me she was having a business dinner with a few old college friends. I even dropped her off, kissed her forehead, and told her not to stay out too late. But fate has a cruel way of showing you the truth. Not in thunder or lightning, but in silence. After an hour, I got a message from my assistant. A simple one. "Sir, Daniel Reed was seen at the same restaurant. Daniel Reed, the man who used to be Sophia's ex, the one she swore she never wanted to see again." My heartbeat slowed down, but my hands trembled. I don't know what made me stay, but something in my gut told me not to leave. I parked the car a little farther down the street, dimmed the lights, and waited. Through the glass walls of that expensive restaurant, I saw her, Sophia, my wife, laughing in a way I hadn't seen in months. Her hand brushed Daniel's wrist. He leaned closer. She didn't pull away. That single moment broke something inside me. Not because she smiled, but because it was the same smile she once gave me. For a few minutes, I just sat there. My reflection in the car window looked like a stranger, a man too calm to be normal. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even hurt. I was empty. I could have gone inside, caused a scene, yelled at her, but I didn't. Instead, I just whispered to myself, let her finish her dinner. Let her finish her lie. When she finally came out, she looked at me like nothing had happened. "Hey, you're still here?" she asked, smiling, her perfume still carrying traces of someone else's cologne. I smiled back. "Yeah, just wanted to see you get home safe." That night, while she slept beside me, I stayed awake staring at the ceiling, every beat of my heart whispering one truth. She doesn't love you anymore. And right there, in the darkness of that bedroom, I decided something. I wouldn't confront her. I wouldn't fight her. I would simply watch and let her show me who she truly was. That night was the beginning of everything. The betrayal, the silence, the transformation. The next morning felt colder than usual. Sophia hummed in the kitchen, making coffee, her voice soft and cheerful, like the night before never happened. She kissed my cheek before leaving for a quick client meeting. I watched her car drive away through the window, her red tail lights fading into the traffic. My coffee turned cold before I even took a sip. People say betrayal feels like fire, but they're wrong. It feels like ice, slow, quiet, and paralyzing. I didn't tell anyone. Not my friends, not my parents, not even my assistant who already suspected something. I just went on with my day, pretending to be the same Ethan Parker, the quiet husband, the relaxed man who had nothing to hide. But deep inside, something changed. I stopped looking for love and started looking for truth. I had a private investigator follow her for a week. The man was good, discreet, invisible, professional. On the fourth day, he sent me photos. Sophia, at the same cafe again, with Daniel, laughing, touching his hand, looking happy. That night, when she came home, she talked about traffic, about how her meeting ran late. I just nodded, smiled, and said, "You must be tired." She didn't notice that my eyes didn't blink when I said it. Days turned into weeks. I started working from home more often, pretending to take a break from the company. She liked that. She thought I was losing my focus. But what she didn't know was that every morning when she left, I opened my laptop, not to work on business plans, but to read messages I'd intercepted from her secret number. Daniel's name flashed too many times. Each text felt like a knife that didn't kill, just cut deeper. One message read, "He doesn't even notice. It's like living with a ghost." That one hurt, not because she said it, but because she was right. I was a ghost. A silent shadow watching my own marriage burn in slow motion. Then something inside me shifted. I stopped feeling pain and started feeling power. If she could act, so could I. If she could lie, so could I. I decided to keep living beside her, to smile, to play the perfect husband until she showed me her full face. I wasn't going to confront her, not yet. Because when I finally did, I wanted her to realize who she had really betrayed. Not a simple man, not a clueless husband, but the man who built everything she ever dreamed of losing, and that realization would break her more than any revenge ever could. It's strange how people show their true selves when they think you're not paying attention. Sophia began to change. Or maybe I just started seeing her clearly. She came home later, dressed better, laughed louder. Every time I asked about her day, she gave vague answers like, just meetings or you wouldn't understand. And I'd just smile and say, "You're right, I probably wouldn't." She thought she was winning, but the truth? I was studying her like a book I'd already read once, now just revisiting the parts I missed. At night, while she scrolled through her phone pretending to text her friends, I'd sit on the balcony with my laptop. She thought I was working on nothing. But that nothing was my everything, the silent foundation of the empire she didn't know I owned. Sophia always believed I worked for someone else. She never cared enough to ask what I really did. The truth was, I had built an AI company years before we met. I kept my identity hidden, preferring peace over fame. But the company was now expanding faster than I'd ever imagined. New investors, major acquisitions. My name was on contracts she would never see, and that gave me time and patience. One night, she came home late again, her lipstick slightly smudged. She smelled like whiskey and perfume that wasn't hers. She stumbled into bed, mumbling, "You're still awake?" I smiled in the dark. "Yeah, just thinking." "About what?" she asked, half asleep. I looked at her and whispered, "About what people do when they think no one's watching." She laughed softly. "You're weird, Ethan." Then she turned over and fell asleep. That laugh stayed in my mind. It wasn't the laugh of someone who loved you. It was the laugh of someone who pitied you. The next morning, I walked to the mirror, looked at my reflection, and smiled for the first time in weeks. I didn't see a broken man anymore. I saw the calm before a storm. From that day on, I started preparing. Not to destroy her, but to free myself. I moved my shares quietly, bought a penthouse under a private name, signed new contracts overseas. Meanwhile, I acted like the same old Ethan, lazy, quiet, harmless. The safe husband who didn't notice a thing. Sophia had no idea that every time she lied to me, I was one step closer to disappearing from her world completely. And the sweetest part? When the truth would finally come out, she wouldn't even see it coming. It's funny how life reveals truth, not with explosions, but with whispers. It started with a dinner. Sophia had invited a few of her friends over, the kind of people who only spoke in brands and bragged in half smiles. Daniel was there too. She said he was helping her with a new project. When he shook my hand, I looked him in the eye and smiled. That smile wasn't anger. It was a silent promise. Throughout dinner, I stayed quiet, just observing. Sophia laughed at every joke Daniel made. Every touch, every glance, carefully disguised as friendly. But what caught my attention wasn't them. It was her eyes when she looked at me. There was guilt, but also comfort. She knew I wouldn't make a scene. She believed she'd broken me completely. After dinner, Daniel left first. I walked him to the door. Before he could speak, I leaned close and said quietly, "Enjoy it while you can, Daniel. Some stories don't end the way you think." He froze. I smiled, closed the door. Inside, Sophia was cleaning up, pretending like nothing happened. I stood behind her and said, "You should tell me about that project of yours someday." She didn't even turn around. "It's boring stuff, Ethan. You wouldn't get it," I chuckled. "You're probably right. I only built the kind of company people like Daniel try to work for." Her hands stopped moving. "What did you just say?" "Nothing," I said softly, and walked upstairs. That night was the first time I saw her afraid. The next morning, she called me 3 times while I was at work. I didn't answer. When I finally came home, she was pacing the living room. "Ethan, what's going on with you lately?" she asked, voice shaking. I smiled gently. "Nothing, Sophia, just learning to see things as they are," she frowned. "You're acting strange." I looked at her, really looked at her. "Maybe you just don't recognize me anymore." That night, she slept restlessly. I didn't. Instead, I sat by the window watching the city lights, each one a reminder that I wasn't trapped anymore. The next day, I called my lawyer. He already knew what to do. Within a week, everything was ready. The legal documents, the asset transfers, even the property rights. I made sure her name was nowhere to be found. She still smiled at breakfast, still texted Daniel in secret. But I wasn't the same man eating beside her anymore. I was the man silently walking away, and she didn't even know it. The fall didn't start with shouting. It started with silence. A week after that dinner, Sophia noticed things changing. Little things she couldn't explain. Her credit card suddenly declined at a luxury store. Her car lease company called to confirm a cancellation. Even her favorite boutique said her membership had expired. At first, she thought it was a mistake. Then she checked her shared bank account and saw the balance, 0. She called me immediately, her voice trembling. "Ethan, something's wrong with our accounts." I was sitting in my office, my real office, the one she'd never seen, with glass walls overlooking downtown LA. I answered calmly, "Oh, must be some technical glitch. I'll look into it." She didn't know that every cent she ever touched had come from me. And now it was gone. Not stolen, just reclaimed. Later that evening, when I came home, she tried to smile, pretending everything was fine. But her eyes were wide with fear. "Ethan," she said, "why didn't you tell me you owned Parker Tech?" I raised an eyebrow. "You never asked. I thought you worked for them." "You thought a lot of things." She stepped closer, her voice softer. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Would it have changed anything?" I asked quietly. Her silence was louder than any scream. That night, I packed a small bag, not because I had to, but because I was done pretending. When she saw me near the door, her voice broke. "Ethan, where are you going?" I looked at her one last time and said, "To a life where love doesn't feel like a performance." She grabbed my hand. "Wait, what about us?" I pulled away gently. "There's no us, Sophia. There's just a man who trusted and a woman who played." Her tears didn't move me anymore. Not because I hated her, but because I had already forgiven her long before she asked. Forgiveness, I learned, isn't about the other person. It's about freeing yourself from their gravity. As I walked out of the door, she whispered, "You'll regret this." I turned around and said softly, "No, Sophia, you will." That was the last night I ever saw her in that house. A month later, the divorce papers were signed. She left with nothing, not out of cruelty, but justice. And me? I left with everything that mattered. My peace. 6 months later, the world looked different. Not because it changed, but because I did. The mornings were quieter now. No shouting, no pretending, no noise. Just coffee, sunlight, and peace. The kind money can't buy, and lies can't steal. I had moved to a smaller place by the coast. Nothing fancy, white walls, wood floors, open air. But every corner felt honest. Sometimes I'd catch myself smiling for no reason. Maybe because for the first time I wasn't acting in anyone's story. I was writing my own. People say success is the best revenge. They're wrong. Peace is. One afternoon, as I walked along the beach, my phone buzzed. A message from her. "I saw your interview." "You looked happy. I hope you're doing well." I stared at the screen for a moment, then smiled. And for the first time, I didn't feel anything, not anger, not regret, just closure. I typed back, "I'm at peace, Sophia. I hope you find yours too." Then I put my phone away, watched the waves, and realized something beautiful. Sometimes God doesn't give you what you want. He gives you what you need to become who you're meant to be. And maybe love isn't about finding someone who completes you. Maybe it's about becoming complete, all on your own. That night, as the sun melted into the horizon, I whispered a quiet prayer. For everything I lost, thank you. Because through loss, I found myself. And that's how my story ended. Not with revenge, not with regret, but with peace